Yeah, baby. Your boy Just a Regular Joe did a thing, and that was the Mooloolaba Sprint Triathlon this past Saturday, 29th of March. The Mooloolaba Sprint Triathlon was supposed to include a 750-metre ocean swim, 20k bike, and 5k run up in Mooloolaba on the sunny coast. Why only supposedly? We'll grab a feed, take a seat, and I'll tell you. Firstly, let's outline the competition, aka my mates, because I don't know or care to know about the other triathletes, unless they were bad. Op number 1 is Orca. Like the name suggests, he's a gun swimmer, the best of the crew, and a decent cyclist. The former basketball player said he is Luca's height and weight when he was on the Mavs, 6'7" and 120 kgs. He a big boy, and although helpful for the first 2 legs, is a hindrance for the run. The inverse of Orca is Kraken. Like the name suggests, he has cheeks at swimming. No offense, Kraken. The Kraken is legit 6 foot and rumoured to be 60 kgs. This light build means he's a good runner and a handy cyclist. The dark version of Kraken is Killer in it. Why is he the dark version? Well, the London-bound man is Sri Lankan, so it looks more like this. Killer is the most experienced of the crew, being the only one over 30, old-ass geezer. Having reached the age threshold, he has fully immersed himself in the cyclist, hobbyist, old head archetype. His best effort being a 200k bike. Look at that bruv. That's tough. He's also not a bad runner, but the same can't be said about his swimming ability. Ollie Hulk has a tank character build, being the most jacked of the crew. These muscles aren't just for show though. The bro did squad growing up, so he's a good swimmer and a strong biker. The only leg that no one knew how he was going to go was the run, so he was the dark horse of the race. Jimbo is the most rounded of the crew, having done the full triathlon in the previous year. The best description I can give of Jimbo is a cockroach. Doesn't go away and just grinds it out. The bro got that dog in him. His best accomplishment is completing an ultra marathon. I would say he was the most prepared and the favourite going into the sprint try. The only female competitor of the group was Alice.
Alice! Oh, that fucking Alice!
Alice is Jimbo's sister, so basically the female version of him. She also completed the full try the year before. Sir Charles's Rang. Now for me, I can swim, I can run, but this is a bike I was riding. This was my first endurance competition. I've played rugby union, league, and done a couple of CrossFit events, but nothing like this. I was excited for it. On Friday, the day before the event, we all drove up after work in separate cars. I drove up with the handler in my small Mazda 2. Thankfully, Killer hired a Bunnings ute and took my bike, as it would have been an uncomfortable ride on the way up within the back of my car. On the way up, we witnessed the biggest crash out. This geezer in the ute was revving his engine and tailgating the car in front, which was the stupidest thing because there was a car in front of the other car. Like bruh, Uche. You drivers are the biggest dogs on the road low-key, compensating type she. After checking into the event, we went to the surf club Mooloolaba for dinner and a pre-game beer to calm the nerves. After resisting the urge to grab another round, we went back to the hotel to prepare for the big day tomorrow. This gave me school camp vibes. I just wanted to stay up and yap with the boys, but we had a job to do the next day, so I wrapped it up and went to bed.
What day is it? What day is it?
It's game day!
Game day!
Game day!
Upon waking up, I was hopeful the weather had turned from the raining and windy previous night, but was sadly disappointed. If anything, low-key worse than that pussy old cyclone Alfredo.
I think Alfred just might be gay, the way that he's spinning around to a twirl.
The weather could not dampen my excitement, however. As soon as I woke up, I turned on the JBL and blasted some Fetty Wap. Baby, won't you come my way? The transition area was open from 5 AM to 6 AM. So unlike Jimbo Ida and Ollie Hulk, who showed up at 5:20 AM to de-stress the situation, the rest of us showed up at 5:55 AM. After setting up our gear in the transition area, we went to chill at a nearby cafe as we didn't start till 8:30 AM. As we were the last to start, being in the mates category. Yeah, I got mates.
Stop the cap!
To pass the time, we talked about how bad the weather was and how sad it was the swim league got cancelled. It was cancelled because this is what the weather looked like in the morning. Additionally, there are reports of blue bottles. The person who was probably the most annoyed about the swim league being cancelled was Orca, as it was where he was going to make his money and build his lead. On the outside he seemed chill, but I imagine this is what was going on in his head.
Shut the fuck up in the background! You backstage game and scrub! Shut your fucking mouth!
At 8 AM, we waddled over to the start line. Instead of the swim league, there was a 200-metre beach sprint with staggered two-person releases every 10 seconds. Sir Charles and I lined up together and I won't lie, he got me on this leg. But I made up for it on the first transition where I opted to go sockless and got out of there quicker than him. Unfortunately, I popped the bottom button on my Hawaiian t-shirt, which was soaked before I even put it on, so your boy's guts were hanging out low-key. The bike leg was 3 laps around this circuit, which included a hill near the midpoint. So this was by far my longest bike, so my strategy was just to send it and hold on. I was proud of my effort and actually passed a few people on the uphills, but got chopped on the flats when my 7-gear bike maxed out. Riding in these conditions was tough. There were flooded parts and a few wind tunnels, which turned to knock a few of the lighter riders off their carbon fibre bikes, Alice being one of the few who took a tumble. I guess this is where my solid steel frame bike came in handy, because there's no way I was getting blown by the wind, or anybody for that matter. As the bike leg was a circuit, I crossed paths with the boys a few times, going the other way. This was my favourite part of the event, throwing mana waves and kudos to the boys. The other part of the event I really enjoyed was all the volunteers and supporters who were braving the conditions to cheer the competitors along. They were the true MVPs of the event, so shout out to them. Not to brag, but I would say I was the crowd favourite with my bike and fit. Got nicknamed Basketball and Pineapple Man. Loved hearing the cheers and seeing the smiles on people's faces as I went by. At this point in the race, everyone but Sir Charles was ahead of me. They all left before us on the beach sprint, but they were also increasing the gap with each lap. After completing the bike leg, I almost crashed out in the transition area. The reason was, as I entered the transition area and dismounted my bike, I took off my helmet because I wasn't riding my bike anymore, but then got stopped by the staff and told to put back on my helmet while in the transition area. I complied, took my helmet off when I got to my bike loading area and wrecked my bike, but apparently this was also a mistake. I had to wreck my bike, then take my helmet off. Unfortunately, I was using zip ties to hold up my bike because it didn't have the hooked handlebars like all the other athletes who had road bikes. When I took the bike off to put my helmet on, to then hang the bike up again, one of the zip ties broke, so I couldn't rack my bike. My solution was to put the bike over the rack front wheel first, then I took my helmet off. Apparently the old lady was on a power trip and didn't like this idea, so I had to put my helmet back on, take my bike off, and rack it again, so it was hanging from the seat, and then take my helmet off. What the fuck? Anyways, apologies to the volunteer for my low-key but valid crash out when this happened. After this, I flushed the encounter and the lactic built up in my legs and began the run. This was also tough. My Hawaiian t-shirt was soaked and heavy, I was heavy, and my legs were cramping. But we were moving. I had a pace setter in front of me out the blocks, and I was enjoying the view, I can't lie. Unfortunately, they slowed down before the hill, so I had to thug it out in the downpour alone. I passed most of the crew on their home stretch heading the other way. Again, I threw up some mana. On my way down the hill, I spotted the Sasquatch orca walking behind some people, so I gave him a cheeky spray. Like I said before, this run was tough. Not the hardest I've done, but the most painful I'd say. Anyway, I grinded it out. The pace setter caught back up to me. Not gonna lie, I thought I had a chance. We were running together in the last stretch, but then just before the end, they boosted me and cut me off from my finish line photo. And to make things worse, gave her boyfriend a hug at the finish line. No, shit's tough, bro. But to make it better, were my mates waiting at the finish line to dap me up for a job well done. Yes, sir. The placings of the event are as follows: Jimbo, Kraken, Killer, Alice, Ollie Hulk, Walker, Just a Regular Joe, and Sir Charles bring up the rear. Blood had a $50 bet with his old man, who smoked him by 20 minutes. Oh, come on. After the event, we walked to the bike area to grab our stuff, then head to a nearby car park to wait for the handler to pick us up. The first trip, he grabbed the boys in the Mazda 2, then Killer came back with the ute to pick me and the bikes up. By the time I got in the car, I'd been standing in the rain for an hour with Hawker, who got picked up by his fiancée. I was fucking over it. The rain was fun for the event and added an interesting layer, but after that, just stop, bro. Following this, I had the most glorious warm shower. We then met up at the Maroochydore Surf Club to grab a feed and a well-earned beer. Kraken, Ollie Hulk, and Killer all drove back to Brisbane after, while the rest of us went back to the hotel for a nap. It was great. When we woke up, this is the view we saw. It was a completely different day. Perfect weather for having post-event drinks, and that's exactly what we did. My closing thoughts on the Mooloolaba Sprint Triathlon is that it was fun. Glad I did it. It was made so much better doing it with mates and just having all the supporters, volunteers and other competitors there, thugging it out in the wind and rain. It was disappointing that the swim leg was cancelled, but I understand why it was. Kraken and Killer probably would have been lost to the ocean if it wasn't. Regardless that it was cancelled, all the training that was put in was fun. It's exciting training for an event, especially with your peers. Would I do it again? Since I can't really say I completed a triathlon, I think I will. Although, I should probably get a better bike. Cue the outro. Big City Life. It's the outro. Just a regular Joe.